Well, hello everyone. Good evening. Happy evening before the election of 2020. This podcast is going to be a little bit different for a couple of reasons. One, I'm testing a brand new connection to Instagram and to TikTok, and I can already see that we have people signed in on TikTok, and I want to give them a shout out. Chris Gibson, D. Robbie, Nick Chubb, Tupo, if I'm saying that right. Thank you for joining us. I can see your comments and I appreciate them. And also, we're testing out another brand new feature, and that is the ability for you to actually join me via video. If you want to make a comment, you can actually click on the link. You can see it in the description for this podcast or in the chat. And in fact, let me put this in the chat for TikTok and for Instagram. If you click on that and you wait in line, I will be able to take you live video via your iPhone, via your Android, whatever you desire. I can actually do that. So please join me however you like. And this is just kind of casual tonight. I just wanted to see how you're doing. I wanted to see how you're feeling the night before the 2020 election. After all that 2020 has given us, after all the madness, we now have this election, and there's a lot of different outcomes that could happen. So please tell me how you're feeling. This is Ken. Ken Stewart says, "You're awesome, J-Mac." Thank you. I appreciate it. I am a little bit nervous about the outcome tomorrow. And I'm wondering if you are too. This is from Jay. Jay says Trump is the second coming of Christ. I wonder if you're referring to our last broadcast. I hope you'll check it out, where we deal with whether or not President Trump represents Christianity or not. I asked people to tell me what he has ever said or done or believes or promotes that matches Christianity. And it was a lot of crickets, a lot of silence. So you can support him for a lot of reasons, but please don't try and tell me you support him because of Christianity or Christian values. I don't really see how that lines up very well. Again, I see a lot of you joining us on TikTok. Bernie, Delvin, Tyler, Fred, thank you. And we have people also joining us from Instagram as well. Here's some of the things going on around the country that give me a little bit of pause as you chime in about how you're feeling about this election. And again, if you click on that link that I put in the comments, you can actually join me via video chat if you want. Of course, everybody else is going to see it. So I'm not sure. It'd be kind of like calling into a TV station. I'd like to test out that feature. So if you want to try it, please do so. I see Orion on. Orion's ready and willing to share a lot of different things or try out a lot of different things. If you could see that link, Orion, try it out. Let's see if we can get you in. Let's see here. This is Jay. I think answering the question about Christianity, foreign policy with Jerusalem, Middle East peace deals, no senseless wars. He's more a libertarian. Yeah, I can see that. But that content was about whether or not he's a Christian or not and promotes Christian values. And I actually asked the question, do you think this nation has become more Christian-like or less Christian-like over the last 4 years? And I think that answer is pretty obvious. This is Tony. Tony says, can we call in on Periscope? Tony, it's actually a completely separate link. It doesn't function through the platforms. If you can see the link, I put it in the description. I hope you can see it. I also put it in the description of this conversation, and maybe you can see it, maybe you can't. But if you can, just click on that and it'll bring up in your browser on whatever device you're on. And I should be able to see you and pull you up live, and then everybody else can see you chatting. Hopefully you can see it. I'm not sure if you can. Again, I'm just trying this out, and I'll figure out a way to get you the link. This is Chad. Chad says about the election, I'm nervous. Whatever the outcome, I have a feeling there will be violence. Chad, you're not the only one. Look at this newspaper article. Non-scalable fence to be erected around the White House before the election. You're not the only one. How about this one? Ahead of election, police prepare for violence and disruption. There are places in this country where they are boarding up as if a hurricane was coming. But they're doing it because they are worried about potential violence. Let's see. Let's see if I can pull up Ken. Ken said, I had a visceral response to what Mike Lee said. Do you think he's vulnerable in 2022? Would love to see you or Evan McMullen take him on. Oh, let's not talk about another campaign for me already. It would kind of drive my wife crazy to think that I was thinking about another campaign. He may be vulnerable, although I know a lot of people who heard his response, his commentary, that President Trump, think of him like you would Captain Moroni from the Book of Mormon. I know a lot of people that were rubbed wrong by that, but I know a lot of people, and I told you I met a lot of them on the campaign trail, who do absolutely believe that President Trump is the chosen one sent by God. So I don't know how vulnerable he'll be. I'm not in any position to be considering or thinking about another run for Congress, for the Senate. I'm just trying to figure out how to pay my bills. That's where I'm at right now. This is Tony. He says, nope, no big deal. And he doesn't see a link. Tony, I got to figure out a different way to get you guys the link. Orion is trying to join in. So let's see here. Orion, are you there?
Yeah, can you hear us?
I can hear. Oh, Orion and Abby. Who else?
We got Laurie Stringham.
Laurie Stringham running for Salt Lake County Council. Also, we got all you guys.
Yep.
So I'm just trying out this brand new feature. You guys can hear me okay?
Yes, we can.
All right, Orion, how you feeling about the upcoming election?
I'm kind of nervous, actually, about what's going to happen tomorrow night.
I think that unless there is an overwhelming victory to one side or the other, that we are heading for some chaos over the next few weeks. Is that kind of how you feel?
Yeah, I think that's exactly how I'm feeling right now about that. And I feel unless there's a definitive victory on one side or the other, I don't feel that either side's they're going to respect the rules of democracy and judgment.
Yeah, I absolutely agree with you. How about Lori? How are you feeling?
Pretty good. It's going to be close, but I think we might be able to eke it out. So
now, so you're talking about your own election. Now, you don't have any polling at your level. So, do you have any indication of where you stand in the election?
Yeah, actually, we do. We are looking at the number of ballots that have been returned by each of the parties, which ones are vote really strongly one direction or the other. And right now, it's looking really good for us right now. So I'm excited about that.
Well, good. So that's great news. I will tell you, though, we were really optimistic in the primary when I was running, and we got slapped hard in the face. So hopefully that doesn't happen to you.
Well, it's been a great race, and we worked our tail ends off. We are kind of like a David and Goliath. We haven't raised what our opponent has raised. So if we pull the amount that we've raised, it'll be a story in and of itself. Yeah.
Well, and more than anything, Lori, thank you for running. Thank you for standing up and fighting for what you believe. We need more good people running for office, not less. So either way, no matter how it goes, I wish you the best of luck.
Thank you.
And how about you, Abby? How you feeling?
I just want my candidates to win, especially the night before, and here we are working. I'm very focused on just getting my folks elected. We've done a hard couple of months just getting everybody where they need to go.
Yeah.
Very proud of my cancer, being very clean, being very respectful. I've just had a really good slate this year. So watching all those races closely and hoping whatever chaos happens on the national level doesn't on Salt Lake County.
Right. So those of you who don't know, Abby is a political consultant. She's highly sought after. She worked on my campaign, and she's working on a bunch of Republican campaigns. So you're going to be watching the election tomorrow night a little bit differently than the rest of us.
Yeah, I'd like to get a job in 2022, so losses, that's bad.
Yeah, so you need to win some of these to remain employable is what you're saying.
Yeah, I don't want everybody to say, "Oh yeah, 2020, oh, don't hire her."
Yeah, absolutely. So
so I'm excited.
Any thoughts from any of the three of you for those who are listening who are concerned about the election? Any parting words?
Parting words. I say just have faith in our democracy. It's seen worse things than this. You know, it's had a Great Depression, it's had a Great Recession, it's had a pandemic. I just think party elections are quick victories and they are quick losses. People forget about them in a couple of years, and just who we become as a country by character, who we become as an individual by character, that's what our destiny is going to be, not this loss or this win.
Well, I love that. In fact, that's what a lot of my podcast was on last time, is who we become is more important than if we win this particular victory. Abby, very well said. Lori, any parting comments?
Actually, yeah. I'll tell you what, one of the things I'm really excited about right now is there are groups who are talking now in Utah who weren't talking before. There are people who are together. And one of the things that we're going to be excited to announce here pretty soon is a summit between two very warring factions right now in February that we'll be talking about soon. So I'm really excited about that. Awesome. Regardless of whether I win or lose, we have done some amazing things. And I think Utah is going to lead the way in a lot of this fight.
Well, we'll have you back on the podcast after the election, and you can talk about some of those developments if you like.
That'd be fabulous. Thanks.
Awesome. Orion, how about you? Inspire us.
Yeah, I think everybody should get out to vote. We've got a huge turnout. It's going to be a record turnout, and everybody should exercise their right to vote and participate in democracy. And more important, I think everybody needs to respect the winner, whoever that may be, even if it's the person that they do not like. We need to recognize the winner and then move on from there.
Absolutely. That's a very important part of our democracy, the peaceful transition of power. Well, thanks, guys. Thanks for chiming in. The link works, so that's cool. I just got to figure out how to get it to more people, but I'm going to drop you and move on to some other commentary. All right. Have a great night. So, again, I'm going to try and put this link out for people to see it. I'm not sure if it will work or not. And I'm also not sure how many of you want to actually be live video chatting with me, but I'm putting it out there. So if you go on our Facebook page, you should be able to see it. If you click on that link, it will connect you with me directly via video. So, and again, this is our first Instagram live. This is our first TikTok live. Thank you, Paula and Amanda and Joseph on TikTok, Alyssa White, also Steve Etherington. Thank you. James on Instagram, Richard Howluck, I hope I'm saying that right, on TikTok, Gus Sanchez, Rodney. I can see your guys' comments if you want to share any different comments. Again, I'm just asking the question, how do you feel on election night? I have a different range of emotions, completely different than I've ever had before an election. Usually on an election night, I'm in a newsroom at KSL or at some radio or TV station giving political commentary and covering the elections. This will be the first election night or presidential election night in 20 years where I'm not actually doing election coverage. I do think we'll do a live tomorrow night as some of the returns come in and give you folks a chance to chime in. But I don't know what's going to happen. Are there going to be protests in the streets? Yes, I think that's a guarantee. Will those protests turn violent? I don't know. We have a president who has been preparing his supporters to not accept the election results. This is him just a few days ago. Oh, let me fix that. Can you hear that?
On November 3rd, instead of counting ballots for 2 weeks, which is be very, very proper and very nice if a winner were declared on November 3rd, instead of counting ballots for 2 weeks, which is totally inappropriate, and I don't believe that that's by our laws.
So he thinks that it's totally inappropriate that we are counting after tomorrow and that it doesn't somehow match our laws. What does he think happened before we had the internet and television and technology? What does he think happened with George Washington and all of the presidents that came before all of this technology happened? Does he think somehow, like with the Pony Express and pigeons, that they got same-day results? Again, for months now, he's been preparing his supporters to dispute and not believe the polling results, and I think that that's dangerous. In fact, he's been doing it since the day he was elected, when he said that millions of people voted illegally, otherwise he would have won the popular vote. Of course, he was just saying that because his ego couldn't take the fact that he had lost the popular vote. But nonetheless, that's what he was saying. And I would ask you, based upon his statements, what do you think is more important? Having a same-day election result or everybody's vote being counted? Because it seems like that's the choice we're being presented with. Which one do you think? Let's see. Let's go back to some of your calls. This is from Scott. Scott says, don't call Trump a libertarian. Haha, many of his views are more authoritarian or government rule, not individual liberty. Well, I think that some of the positions he's been fighting for might be able to be classified as libertarian. But the way that he wants to run the country is absolutely authoritarian. You can tell he laments the fact that he has to go through Congress, that he has to get votes, that he can't just dictate the way things it should be. Now, he's told us that he knows how to run things. He knows more about everything than anybody else. So why wouldn't he want absolute rule? So he can just put things into place and do them the way he wants to do them. Let's see. Here's another comment. This is from Denise on Facebook. Denise says, does the rhetoric between Ben McAdams and Burgess Owens bother you? So wish you would have won. Yeah, it bothers me. I am, one of the things that I am most grateful for this election season is a DVR. How about you? I watch very few things live, and I can see as I'm fast forwarding the election commercials, every once in a while I land on those and I see what's going on. You know, one of the reasons I ran was so that we could provide a different option. We could provide a different choice. But that's apparently not what the people wanted. And by the way, talking about the rhetoric and potential for violence, have you seen this ad? It's running in Utah right now. This is one of the ones that I've seen. Is this running where you're at? And is this really the choice that we're being given? And is this not the worst type of fear-mongering you've ever seen in your life?
Jobs versus mobs. Your choice. As we recover from the virus, will we rebuild our economy, keep taxes in check, bring America back with good jobs stronger than ever? Or give up, turning America over to the crazy radical left, our police and national defense defunded, endless violence, riots, and destruction, massive job-killing tax hikes. Tell Washington, America needs jobs, not mobs.
Is that really the choice that is before us in this election, jobs or mobs? Are you believing that? I mean, I think that is one of the most disgusting things I've ever seen go out on the airwaves. First of all of those images were shot during President Trump's term. second of all, President Trump is not the only jobs president. Take a look at the jobs in the last 3 years of the Obama administration. I do think that much of the president's deregulation, and yes, even the tax cut, helped spur on jobs. But the idea that if he's not elected means that we will not have jobs and that we will only have mobs. First of all, we already have the mobs, thank you very much. And second of all, it's just not substantiated with the jobs. Will things be affected? Will there not be as much of a counterbalance? Yeah, absolutely. But if you think this is a choice between jobs and mobs, then why wouldn't you go out and protest? And why wouldn't you commit acts of violence? If you think that that's what the choice we've been given is, that's what President Trump wants you to think, that those are the choices that you have right now. I just think it's disgusting. Let's get back to some of your comments here. Again, I'm asking the question. This is just casual tonight. How are you feeling about the election tomorrow? This is Tony. Tony says, I'm very nervous. First time in history, we will not have a peaceful transfer of power. Sad. Gosh, Tony, I hope you're wrong. If there is an overwhelming victory, then that would help settle some of this. And I think there is a potential for an overwhelming victory. If you go back and listen, I think 2 podcasts ago, I gave you my theory on why the polling was so wrong in 2016 and why I don't think it will be wrong in 2020. And how I do think that we are looking towards an overwhelming victory towards Biden. Go back and watch that. I'd love your feedback. This is Rosalie. Too bad they didn't choose Jay to run against McAdams. Again, I gave everyone a clear choice, but when you're running as reasonable and civilized in Utah, unfortunately, I don't know that that's what people are looking for right now. And so, I've had a lot of people come up to me, and this has really been great solace for me, is they've come up to me and they said, thank you for giving me a choice on the ballot. Like they just the fact that they could check a box that was not promoting certain things. Somebody came up to me and they said, thank you in the debates for saying you wear a mask because you love your neighbor, and cutting through all that other nonsense, all that other civil liberties, all of that other stuff, because that gave me a choice. So, if that was the service that I was able to provide and we were able to talk to thousands and thousands of people, then I can feel good about it. Let's see. Ashley says, I am terrified for either outcome. If Trump wins, what will 4 more years look like? If Trump loses, what will that look like? I completely get it, Ashley. Especially on the heels of 2020, I don't have any idea what it's going to look like. I mean, what more can 2020 throw at us? I don't know. Ashley, again, responding to my question, what's more important, that the ballot, that we know tomorrow who the president's going to be, or that every vote is counted? She says every vote being counted. I agree with you. Let's see. This is Bonnie. Bonnie says, you've always been a Trump hater. I see you haven't changed at all. Maybe go work for CNN. Bonnie, I continue to tell people where I support this man and where I don't. And if you want to dismiss everything that I say as Trump hate so that you don't have to deal with it, then that's convenient and that's easy. But I would suggest, rather than being lazy like that, because it's lazy, that you, when I do criticize this president, that you tell me where I'm wrong. Because I notice that when I praise him for the deregulation and things that he's done right, you don't call me a Trump hater when I do that. Then it's like applause. Oh, that's great. Oh, that's fantastic. So if you really want to be engaged in the debate, if you really want to affect my frame of mind and maybe help change my viewpoint on certain things that President Trump has done, then I challenge you. Take one thing. I challenge you right now. Take one thing that I have said about Trump that you would call hate or that you don't like, and tell me where I'm wrong. Should be fairly easy. If what I'm saying is just comes from hate, it should be pretty easy. But, I just don't play in that world of hate, of they're all right and they're all wrong. If you listen to me during President Obama's presidency, you would know there were days that I agreed with him and days that I disagreed with him. Why? Because my agreement or disagreement with somebody is not based upon being a sycophant, being all in or all out, like some cult following, or it's not based upon my allegiance to a party. It's based upon my own principles that I've formed over the years of research and study about what makes this country great, and my own internal moral compass. So the cool thing about what I do, Bonnie, is that when I disagree with the president, or when I tell you that I don't like something that he did, I tell you exactly why and how I came to that conclusion, which should make it enormously easy for you to say, no, Jay, here's where you got it wrong. But when you just say it's hate, well, that tells me that you don't like what you've heard. It makes you uncomfortable, but you can't dispute it. So you just assign it away as hatred. It's convenient. It's easy. Well, again, I'm going to tell you, you go back on this podcast and you can find me defending many things that the president has done and said. I noticed those things never got called hate, though. All right, let's see. Let's go to Chad. Chad says, but a Trump train nearly runs a Biden bus off the road, and all he says is, I love the people of Texas. Well, look, I've watched that video, and I would caution all of you to not come to conclusions based upon the few seconds of video that you see. Depending on the angle, depending on the witness, you could say the white vehicle is trying to push the pickup out of the way. The pickup is trying to push the white vehicle out of the way. I've just decided I don't like all of those Trump supporters harassing a bus. I don't like that. To me, that just plays into this same attitude that is out there that is pushing everybody to anger and to extreme acts. I don't like that. But as far as who initiated there, I watched the video. It's hard for me to tell who initiated. So unless you call all of the trucks there initiating. But I don't see enough there to come to a conclusion yet. That was just me. Let's see. This is Chrissy. Chrissy says, Jay has always strived to provide the facts. He's pretty straightforward. I don't see any hate coming from him. Thank you, Chrissy. I make it a point to not even bring something to you unless I can tell you how I got there. And hopefully that makes it to where if you disagree with me, you can take exactly the thing that got me there and you can challenge it. And you can say, no, here's why you're wrong. And oftentimes I will ask people to tell me where I'm wrong. So, for example, the last podcast that I did, where I was very frustrated with Mike Lee because he said to think of President Trump as Captain Moroni, and because of all the people on the campaign trail who told me that President Trump is chosen by God and that he is fighting for Christianity and he fights for Christian principles. And all I did was ask a simple question. Where and when has Trump been Christian, shown Christian values, or fought for Christianity. You can support him because he's a Republican, because he fights for smaller government, or for all of these other reasons. But if you are up there and you are believing that he is fighting for Christianity, I believe you've been deceived. And that is scary to me if you're in that situation. But again, I asked the question, and I will put it on the screen. I will even take you live on this program if you can find the link and nobody else is finding the link. So I'll figure out a better way to get you the link so that you can join me via video and we can have an absolute face-to-face discussion about what you believe. Let's see. This is Chad. Let me bring up Chad here. Come on, Chad. Should we be nervous if Trump wins because he wants to fire Dr. Fauci? Opinion on this. No Trump supporter has any faith in Dr. Fauci any longer. And this is the way it works with every single person who has ever worked in the Trump administration. They are fine, they are credible, they are to be believed until they question the commander-in-chief in any way, shape, or form. The moment that they question him, then they have ulterior motives. They are against Trump. They have been Trump haters. And that is the way that it works. All right, I think we have somebody calling in here. Let me see if I can bring you up. I think this is Ken. Ken, can you hear me? Oh, we lost him. Ken, try it again. I had you for a minute, and then I lost you. Again, if you look at the description, wherever you're watching, of this broadcast, I've posted a link there. If you click on that link, it should allow you to dial in via video during the show. I will post it again here and see if you can see it. Hang on, let me take a minute and I'll put it up on Facebook. So there's the link. Give it a try. Again, this is the first time I'm using this feature, so I'd love to know if it works. Again, more people on TikTok. Janet. Hello, Janet. Thank you. User 141 4239359950. I think your name is Steve. Steve, thank you for joining us. Janet. Court. Sam. Again, this is our first time on TikTok, so TikTok Live. So a lot of you, Mike, Tracy, Dean, a lot of you, this is your first time joining us. And a lot of you probably followed me because I've been posting Ronald Reagan clips, which has got a lot of people triggered because they think I'm making some commentary about President Trump. And I am. But, that's been really interesting. But my name on TikTok is J McFarland 0. If you want to see some of the coolest ever clips of Ronald Reagan and how he handled a media that was slanted and how he handled opposition and compare that to what we're seeing now, I think it's very interesting. Let's see. Oh, back to the Dr. Fauci, back to Chad. Dr. Fauci's done as far as Donald Trump is concerned. And remember that President Trump has predicted that on November 4th, all of the talk of COVID goes away. And that's going to be remarkable considering here in Utah, we're now to a place where we're just about to ration medical resources because COVID is spiking so aggressively in the state of Utah. Oh, and by the way, across the country, it's spiking. Oh, and by the way, across the world, it's spiking. But once again, somebody has been critical of the president. They're now out. So I wouldn't be surprised if Biden wins if Fauci comes back on the scene. But remember, the president doesn't go away on November 4th. He stays in office until January, the inauguration. I don't think you're going to see any signs of Dr. Fauci and this administration between now and then. So this is Enzo. Enzo says, are you for Trump or are you against Trump? If you would have asked me, this is a great question, by the way. If you would have asked me before the pandemic, I would have given you the pros and cons list that looks something like this. I have supported his Supreme Court nominations. I supported tax reform, although for different reasons than a lot of people think. I support all of the deregulation that a lot of people have not seen happen. I support many of the foreign affairs things that he has been able to accomplish. I do not and have never supported his Twitter. I do not think that he promotes or supports or embodies or exemplifies Christianity. And I think that he has been doing considerable harm to conservatism. If you would have watched me on the campaign trail, one of the things that I would have said to you is that I believe that, unlike liberalism, that conservatism requires conversion. Liberalism is something that is taught in schools. It's something I was liberal when I was growing up because I didn't understand the far-reaching ramifications. So liberalism is not something that you have to convert people to. It's something you have to convert them from. So conservatism, in my mind, requires conversion. And that conversion happens through life experiences. It happens through time. And it happens through somebody articulating a message. So for me, that was Ronald Reagan articulating that message. And I believe that just like in business, if your organization is not growing, that it's dying. And so because people literally die and people become disenfranchised with you and they leave. So that your goal in any organization should be to always be expanding your tent. And so how do you expand the tent of conservatism? I believe you do it by changing hearts and minds. And that was my goal on the campaign trail, to explain to people why smaller government is better than big government, why the 10th Amendment in the Constitution limits the powers of the federal government and gives those powers to the states. And that's something that we should cherish, something that we should hang on to. And so I would always, and I do this in my podcast, try and enlighten, educate, and change hearts and minds to the conservative platform. Unfortunately, President Trump does none of this. He actually, if you look at the numbers, the fewest numbers of people nationally self-identify as conservatives right now than ever. And I think he's given conservatism a bad name. And so that would have been a frustration that I expressed to him, that he has opportunity. In all of his tweets, he has opportunity to change hearts and minds to conservatism. He doesn't. He fires up a very small base. He gins them up to action. And he doesn't invite new people into the tent. In fact, if you disagree with him, it's because you're unintelligent. He'll beat you on an IQ score test. He knows more than you, and you must want something different. In fact, what you probably want is you probably hate this country. And so because of that, I'm not even going to try and contend with you because you hate this country. And so that would have been my frustration. So that's my description. That's the long way around. Am I for or against Trump? That would be before the pandemic. But you know what? If you want to be the leader of the free world, you have to be able to do more than create jobs. You have to be able to do more than have a good economy. You have to be able to properly handle things that come your way. And one of those biggest things is the pandemic. And specifically, 100% because of this pandemic, I cannot support this man as president for another 4 years. I can't do it. Now that leaves me in a quandary because I want smaller government. I want conservatism. I want those things. But when there is a man who has, by his own description, downplayed the coronavirus, when he has destroyed the credibility of real experts, when he has perpetuated the idea that this is actually a hoax when he has literally sent a message that wearing a mask is not something you do for health reasons. You do it because you're politically correct. I believe that because how this man has downplayed this pandemic, people have died. And in fact, if you go back a few podcasts, I go through a detailed description of this. And you will see how the president made this miscalculation. He thought we either have to fight COVID or we have to have a booming economy. And that those are our only choices. And he did the math and he said, well, if we don't have a booming economy, I'm not going to be reelected. So what am I going to do? I'm going to downplay COVID. And I'm going to make it political. And I'm going to try and use that to get reelected. But my friends, it never had to be a choice between jobs, economy, and fighting COVID. This was a terrible miscalculation, and it was done because he's a huge narcissist, and because he doesn't understand true leadership. See, he tells you this. He tells you that the reason he got COVID is because he couldn't shut down. The White House can't shut down. So we have to go on and keep going. But nobody said the White House had to shut down. What everybody said is the White House should set the example and follow its own guidelines. So in that big Rose Garden meeting, when you have a nomination of the next Supreme Court justice, you social distance, you wear masks. You don't shut down. You don't stop the business of government. What the president should have been doing and could have been doing the entire time is encouraging the country to reopen, showing the way of how they reopen, but doing it safely. That was the proper choice. People are like, Biden's going to shut down the country. I don't think that's going to happen. I think he's going to elect this other path that we did not see from President Trump. I hope he does if he wins. If not, I'll be on the next podcast and I'll be criticizing it. Because we didn't have to choose shutdown or safety. What we should have chosen was reopen with safety. Can you imagine if all of those diehard Trump supporter anti-maskers were seeing images every day of their idol, the chosen one, Donald Trump, wearing a mask? And if every day at every White House event or wherever the president went, there was social distancing and people wearing masks. And then his message from the podium every day is, listen, reopen, but do so safely. Spread out. Wear masks. I don't think we would be in this relapse that we are in if the majority of the people had heard that leadership from this president every single day. But unfortunately, that was the path he took. And that's when I knew that he had disqualified himself from being the president of the United States. Because we're not only mid-pandemic, we're now worse off than we ever were. You think about, he'll tell you about all the things that he's done, and we are worse than we ever were, with one exception. And that is that medical professionals have gotten better at fighting the virus. So fewer people are dying, thank goodness. But that's not anything he did. That's the medical profession. In fact, what he decided to do was, what was it, just yesterday, throw the entire medical profession under the bus and suggest that they are engaged in this grand conspiracy to say there are more COVID cases so that they can get more money. Nothing like the entire medical profession being thrown under the bus. And if you want to know about the true number of people that have died from this virus, go back a few podcasts and look at the description I give about the excess mortality rate. The number of people in this country that have died that were not projected to die. every year there's a rolling projection of the previous 3 years. And you can look at it and you can say, based upon the last 3 years average, we should have a death rate that looks about like this. Well, for some reason, that number shows that this year we've had an extra 300,000 deaths. Now, you don't have to look at a single death certificate. You don't have to look at a single declaration that it was COVID to know and understand that the only thing that has happened in our society, maybe with a few exceptions, because suicides are potentially up and some other things, but for the most part, because we're not driving as much, car accident deaths are down, drunk driving deaths are down, workplace accidents are down. So you have all of these things that are dropping because we've all been sequestered in our homes, but for some reason we have 300,000 more deaths in our society. And by the way, the excess mortality rate has gone up in every country on the planet that has COVID. So for him to throw them under the bus, for him to destroy the credibility of Dr. Fauci, I'm sorry. But this is now not a matter of disagreement in policy or how you carry yourself. This, and I'm going to be very bold here, is about good versus evil. Because good would never downplay something like this at the risk of people dying. No good leader would do that. No person who says that they're pro-life would do that. No, nobody would do that. Evil is when you decide for your own personal gain that people will, if people die, they die. So I hope that helps answer your question. This is Enzo again. Thank you. I know he doesn't have manners, but when he does is right, and I will support him 100%. This is way beyond manners. As I said, the fact that he doesn't convert people to conservatism, he chases them away. Because this is what I want you to think about, Enzo, is the largest voting bloc in our country is independents. The smallest voting blocs are Republicans and Democrats. If you look at the numbers nationally, the largest group are the independents, or at least it used to be that way. So you have to look at things from the perspective of independents, okay? And they're watching like a tennis match. Who are they going to support? What are they going to believe? If on one side you only have somebody who has no manners, as you describe it, I call it no decency, no civility about them. In fact, a better word to say no manners is they act like a child on the playground. That's what you're describing as no manners. Behavior that we would never support in the boardroom, the classroom, even in our own families. A lack of manners. You look at independents, when they look at republicanism or conservatism, that's all they see. And they see all of these Republicans blindly following it. Then what you have is something that is self-destructive. Because why would any decent human being who is an independent choose that? If nobody else is out saying, well, ignore that. Don't be like that. But hey, think about why we should have smaller government. That's actually what I've been trying to do the whole time, is say, okay, that's not right. And that's what we should all be doing. If we're true to our values, if we're true to our principles, every one of us should have been saying, no, don't do that. But what happened is people got caught up in it and they didn't know how to handle it. And so they started adopting the very principles that this man espouses, the lack of manners, as you call it. And so if somebody like me comes on the air and they say, this is where the president is wrong, he shouldn't do that. And you know I'm right, because no civilized, respectful human being should do that. what people would do, because they support that man, is instead of saying, you're right, that behavior isn't right, but I still support the policy, they attack the person criticizing. They attack me. We've seen it from Bonnie in this very broadcast. Let's put Bonnie up again. See, that's what they do. You've always been a Trump hater. You haven't changed at all. Maybe go work at CNN. See, now, if Bonnie's still on, I doubt she is. Can you tell me these behaviors are right, Bonnie? Can you tell me you would accept these behaviors anywhere else? You see, because all I'm doing is pointing out when my principles don't agree with what I'm seeing. And what happened in large numbers with President Trump is people abandoned their core principles. And they didn't have to do it. You could have easily said, you know, you're right about that. And I don't like it, and I'm going to let my president know I don't like it. But I do like the conservative philosophy or the conservative principle that's being put in place. So I'm kind of in a quandary here about what to do. But when you turned to attacking along with him, when you started telling everybody who would criticize those things that he does wrong, and you know they're wrong, and you started telling them, oh, you're such a snowflake, or if you don't like it, leave the country, or what a crybaby. That was the moment you became complicit in the very behavior. And that was the moment you abandoned any principles of Christianity. That's the moment that you became what you hate. And the sad thing is that if somebody on the other side of the aisle does it, you'll be the first to jump on it. You'll be the first to call it out. You'll be the first to say how terrible it is. It's like, I don't know if you remember, but on the JMac News show that I used to do on KSL, I used to threaten to do this. I never did it because I knew that it would probably be the end. But I used to threaten to treat President Trump the way he treats other people. So I was going to do a show where I just treated President Trump. I talked about him the way that he talks about other people. You see, I never do it. I always tell you exactly where he's wrong, why what he's doing is wrong. I never treat him the way he treats other people. And you want to see a Trump supporter who is really just a giant snowflake get upset? Treat President Trump the way he treats other people, and they will go out of their minds. Oh, you don't respect the president. Oh, this, oh, that. Well, if the president can do it, then we all should be able to do it. But the truth is, in my opinion, some of the biggest snowflakes on the planet are people when they hear this president get criticized. Oh my goodness, it's game over. And then they turn and they engage in the very same behavior as him. They become complicit. They lose all sense of Christian values or treating people with respect. So that's what I've been dealing with the last couple of months. At any rate, back to the initial discussion about how you're feeling about the election. I wish I could come on today and speak peace to your heart and to your mind. I don't know if I can do that. Again, it's weird, but I'm hoping for an overwhelming victory so that the results cannot be challenged, so that there'll be no question about a peaceful transfer of power. If it's even close in a couple of these battleground states, things could get really bad. Really bad. So I'm going to have a prayer in my heart tonight. I hope you will as well. I will check back in with you tomorrow night. I'm going to find a way for everybody to get this link. So if you want to join me, live on this podcast, we'll be able to do that as a regular basis. Until then, thank you for joining me. Thanks to everybody who joined us on TikTok and Instagram. That was really cool. We've got some kinks to work out. But hopefully cooler minds prevail over the next few days. To everybody who has joined us, again, thank you. Please take a minute, if you can, to... No, not that. This. Wrong one. I'm going to figure this out. If you can, support the JMac podcast. Make a one-time donation, a monthly donation. Share this with your friends. Let everybody know that we are trying to restore civility and still fight for conservatism. I believe that's possible. In fact, I think it's the only way conservatism is going to last. That's just me. But scan that QR code. Go to the description of this broadcast wherever you're seeing it. And please support us. Because as you can see, we're getting bigger and better. We're getting more technical capabilities. And that's all because of you. So if you have donated or been part of that, thank you so much. Everyone have a wonderful evening, and I'll talk to you tomorrow.